Fame is the mask that eats into the face of the wearer, so said Proust or Virgil, or I heard it off Stephen Merchant, who is famous, so he would know. As a person now that's looking back on celebrity rather than in the tornado of it, I can offer you, I hope, some insights on what the experience of being chewed up by the machinery of celebrity is like. What's thrilling and rewarding about it? What are the psychological impacts? Is it kind of a form of self-inflicted trauma? Is there any value to it at all? Let's reflect back on my own journey through the labyrinth of celebrity and see if there is anything that is universal that we can pluck from this personal experience.
Next guest, he is one of the most exciting new names in stand-up comedy.
This was a sort of a pivotal kind of TV appearance experience. This was in 2006. The reason I remember that is because West Ham got to the FA Cup final and I was like following West Ham a lot that season. And people at West Ham, where I'd gone my whole life, suddenly recognised me. Suddenly a place that was about crowds and anonymity and about the team, the crowd turned around. It's exhilarating and exciting and terrifying. The first time that you're chased around by paparazzi, the first time you hear camera lenses on a car window, it's sort of like, oh my God, that thing when I was a little kid that I wanted to happen. Look, it's actually happening. It's somehow actually happening. But there's something about it that is deeply unhealthy, that you intuit from the very beginning. Uh-oh, this ain't good. And you fracture. There is a fracture occurs, like part of you, like you split. You know, you see it in a TV show sometimes when like a sort of a light body steps out of someone and looks back, like a phantom version of the self. And that thing goes off to live in the world of fame. You know, an object held in the culture where people talk about you and discuss you and say things about you. And you think, well, that's not even who I am. That's not what happened. That's not what I meant. That's not what I did. It's a contraption, a construction that's nothing to do with you. What I feel is that at this moment I found, oh wow, I can do this thing. I can remember having a comic rapport with Jonathan, and then the attention after this was monumental. It was transformative.
When you loomed round there, because you've got a very distinctive look about you, Russell, it was a bit like a dream.
I don't reckon that I loomed, I meandered.
You meandered? There's a little bit of looming involved, if you don't mind me saying so.
I deliberately timed that walk, Jonathan, so there'd be nothing startling about it.
Talented actor and comedian whose latest film is entitled Bedtime Stories. You can see that beginning Christmas Day.
Even to look at David Letterman, who's about to introduce me onto the Letterman Show, which was the apex of American talk show experience. You know, if you see Letterman now, he's got a great big giant beard. He's on Netflix in cowboy boots. He's clearly himself had an encounter, an experience of celebrity that has changed it. You see, anyone that's a performer, entertainer, creator in the public space likely has, to a greater or lesser degree, the twin motivations that I had: an earnest and sincere desire to create things, in my case to make people laugh, to connect with people, along with this rather unstable requirement for attention and approval. The thing is that the latter can never be dealt with in this space. When you arrive there at that point on the path that you projected yourself towards, you find that there's nothing there. So if you are driven by an honest intention to convey sort of a message or to share a gift, that at least will sustain you. But the neurotic part of the drive, of course, can never be fulfilled.
Here's Russell Brand. Russell?
I had no idea at the time that what I'd done was constructed a persona or identity for myself. It wasn't really a conscious decision to make. I remember looking at sort of rock bands from the 70s and 80s and Noel Fielding, who I've always adored and still adore, and like thinking, I've got to look different. I can't look like, you know, sort of probably just a couple of years before that, I was hanging out with sort of like quite cool people in Camden, notably Winehouse. I don't consciously remember borrowing her haircut, and God rest her soul. You know, I built a persona for myself, a very identifiable figure. I remember thinking that I wanted to be recognisable in silhouettes. I'd heard Matt Groening say about cartoon characters and like putting on the eye makeup and stuff and turning myself into a thing. And when I look at this person that I created, in a sense, I'm quite glad that I did it, because it means now that I don't do those things, now that I don't live in that world, now that I'm a father, a husband, and that my priorities in life are entirely different. Now that I'm no longer suspended in that stimulating state of fame, now that I have come to earth, I recognise, oh my God, there is peace here. You know, I have learned, I have been shown that we in life tend to focus on the stimulant, the external thing, the person that annoys you or insults you, the person that is attractive to you, that appeals to you. But what we should be focusing on is the stimulation. What is happening to us? What is happening in the body? It's making me feel frightened. It's making me feel sad. It's making me feel angry. If you bring your attention to the internal rather than the external, to the feeling rather than the thoughts, you will receive the messages that some essential aspect of yourself, whether you believe in a scientific materialist perspective and it's your biology, or a spiritual perspective and it's your consciousness more broadly, you can receive the message that you are being sent if you're not distracted by the rambling pirouettes of the ego. What is fame really than millions of people who you don't know having an opinion on you? What is it really other than an amplification of what all of us experience? Fear about what other people might be thinking about us, gossip, what people are saying. It's really just sort of the social experience on steroids. But here and there within it, you find genuine experiences. Like, it is amazing to be in a film with Helen Mirren or Alec Baldwin or Jonah Hill. Like, you encounter brilliant people. In a sense, I'm in no position to judge the machinery of celebrity. What I am in a position to judge is the way that the machinery of celebrity reacts with me. And it was kind of almost like an allergy. Like, I felt myself suspended in this state, like those blue balls in the Science Museum, not literal blue balls, those glass spheres that have blue electricity in them, you know, and you put your hand on it and it follows you around. I felt like I was suspended in a state like that, and it was such an obvious echo of addiction, like being held up by opiates or being held up by libidinousness. It's not something that you can sustain. By this point, beardless and with my mother at the Oscars, this is when I really started to recognise this thing ain't real.
And his date is his mother. How
I'll
proud...
stop you there. We're not dating. There's literally laws against that, aren't there, Mum?
Yes.
We checked into it.
I remember, like, a couple of times getting into altercations with paparazzi. And one time, after I pushed one, my mate Matt said it was like Liam Gallagher the musical. I was always getting in them kind of fracas. It's too much. Like, when you live in Los Angeles and you're a famous person, it's all the time. It's like a grind. There's no downtime. There's no point where you're going to arrive at who you actually are. What are you actually? What is this really? Culture can be a beautiful thing, right? Van Gogh is culture. Religion is culture. But when culture is all about commodity and commodification, you find yourself suspended in this unreal formaldehyde, this unreal, it's intense experience, unrelenting, and very, 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 very challenging. Obviously, what the experience has shown me is treasure and cherish the real, discover what is sacred, accept what happens to you, and learn to see how it can be utilised for good. The things in me that made me want to be famous in the first place, they're sort of still there, a kind of yearning. But now, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of the painful education I've received, and I'm grateful to receive, when I find myself directing that yearning towards an external thing, like, oh, perhaps some people would love me, perhaps I could get some approval, perhaps I could get some pleasure, I sort of remember, oh yeah, that doesn't ever work, ever. Turn this energy, this craving, this yearning, this longing, what does the wanting want, to true connection. And the only way to achieve this true connection is by adhering to certain principles, living in accordance with certain laws that are so commonly found, they may as well be referred to as universal. Compassion, kindness, service, love, surrender.
Thanks. Thanks for this lovely award and accompanying bag. John, that's really kind of you to be sincere and sweet, particularly in this context. Fucking hell. Because this is not designed for sincerity, this environment. You realise we will struggle if we start bringing sincerity into the situation. Thank you.
That, I suppose, is where the process of awakening sort of hit up against the parameters of the fact that I was still occupying the space of celebrity. And it kind of led me to sort of, there's so many people that do it well, aren't there? Like, people that you admire and sort of feel like they are brilliant and they're able to operate in those spaces. Something in me, when I found myself in those sort of logo rooms, felt I can't do it anymore. Now, who knows what the future holds for me as an individual or for the world of celebrity at large. But my sincere hope during this time of serious personal and social, cultural, global re-examination, as perhaps best exemplified by the pandemic, is that we're going to look at what is valuable to us and what our values are, that what we celebrate is connected to values, is connected to, oh my God, this person did an amazing thing, this person does an amazing thing. The implied elitism, the sort of rarefication or the celebration of essentially of commodity in human form, perhaps will come to an end. Perhaps we'll see a different set of values demonstrated by what we revere and what we celebrate, because I suppose that celebrity is about a celebration. And I suppose our celebrities demonstrate to us what our culture is, because it shows us what we are celebrating. And perhaps this time of pandemic and renewal, of hibernation, death and renewal and rebirth, is telling us that our values need to radically alter.